I've been broadcasting on radio shows for over 30 years now, and I just drifted into it like a lot of things. Hello, I'm Keith Woodhouse, and in these series of films on this channel, I'll just be having a chat and talking about things that I've done in my life, things that I've read, things that I've experienced, things that I've seen, films, stories I've heard, just as if we're having a chat in a pub. And this is about my experience with radio broadcasting. It was over 30 years ago when I had a chance meeting with a presenter on a community radio station down in Hampshire. And he said that he was always looking for guests, and I had a fundraising event that I wanted to publicise. So I said, well, could I come down onto your show and talk about this fundraising event that I was going to be raising money for Childline. And we were going to raise, I think it was 100 plastic ducks along the river. And the idea was that you picked a duck and you got a number, and whoever won. But that's another story. I know I ramble, but we'll come to that another time. So he said, yeah, sure. So I got home, and arranged a date with him. And it suddenly dawned on me that I've got all of these tapes. I was really interested in local unsigned music. And in those days, bands would put out their music on cassette tapes. DVDs were invented, but they were out of reach for the normal band. They were just exclusive for record companies at that time. So they would put the old cassette tapes, they would put out 10, 12 track albums and try and sell them at their gigs. Anyway, I had lots of these tapes. So I rang him and I said, look, can we also do a feature on local bands? And he jumped at the idea. He thought it was absolutely great. So I went down to the station, which was Way Valley Radio, down in Hampshire. It was in Alton in Hampshire. And I'm pleased to say that they are still going, after all this time. But I went down there and I took the tapes along, and I had to get a pencil and sort of like line up every tape. So as when we got into the studio and we were live on air, because everything I do is live, virtually everything. When lockdown was on, I had to do record shows from home, but apart from that, I go out live. I'm not keen on recording, and that's like these videos. I just do it straight away through. If I make a mistake, it's there, it stays on, and I'll just go on. If I stumble over my words, it will just stay. So it doesn't get edited, and exactly the same as my radio shows. They are purely live. So whatever is said and can't be unsaid, as it were. Anyway, I started going down to Way Valley Radio, was invited back as a regular guest. So I very soon I was turning up every week. Now the show lasted for an hour and 3/4. I think it was on a Friday evening. So it was not a bad time to be on. It was sort of like 8 till 10 on a Friday evening, maybe 7 till 9, something like that. But I would take up the hour slot. So the regular presenter, he became my guest during 3/4 of an hour. After a while, the station manager said to him, look, your guest has taken over the show, basically. So what we're proposing is to offer you a show on the weekend to the other presenter, and Keith takes over on his show. So that was how I really got into radio. That was it. And it was a local community radio. All of the stations I've been on have been community radios. And at that time, it just broadcast to a limited area. And community radios still do broadcast to limited areas. But nowadays we've got the internet, but I'll come on to that a little bit later. So I after a while, I thought I'd like to get bands come in and play live on the station, on the show. And we couldn't have a full band set up. It was just impossible, because we had one well, we had two mics, one for me, one for the guests. So I'd suggest to bands that they come in and play acoustically, and that's what most of them said. Yeah, that'd be great, and they change their songs to acoustic arrangements, and will come in and I'll have a different band every week. So I still do have virtually every show I do, virtually every live show I do, I have a band play live. So over the years, I don't know, what would I be doing? Sort of 45 shows a year over 30 years. That's over 1,200 shows. Some bands have been in more than once. So I've probably have 500, 600 plus bands or acts, because I have solo acts as well, come into the studio and play live. So it's been quite good, you know, over the years, and I've been lucky to be in a position where station managers have not interfered. They've just let me get on with it. Although I have had solicitors' letters. The station has received threatening letters from solicitors, from people who feel that they may have been slandered, not by anything that I've said, but by something that bands have said. But as yet, no station's ever been sued. So I always say mine is the show that the solicitors look out for. All the ambulance chasers, they listen to my show just to try and make an easy buck. Now, it may seem strange that the show was only an hour and 3/4. Why not 2 hours, you say? So there is a very good reason for this, because what they used to do is, in the 15 minutes from 7 o'clock to 7:15, they would have a specialist show that would be focusing on something in the community. And down at Alton, they got the Watercress line. It's one of those old steam trains, you know. There might be more than one train, but they've got this heritage line where they sort of like go up and down, and they get people on their trains, and then you get to experience steam. I remember when my son used to play football, and he was in a team. He was under 8s or under 9s, and they'd be playing football, and this train used to run along by the side of the pitch, and they'd be in the middle of a game, and the whole two teams would stop and watch a steam train going along. So it really was, and it still is. The Watercress line is a major heritage line, especially in Hampshire. As far as I know, it might be the only one in Hampshire. But the whole team would stop. You know, the ball would just sit there while the train went past, and they'd all watch this steam train puffing away. Anyway, coming back, one of the shows was dedicated to this Watercress line. And a fella used to come in, and he would sort of like sit in the seat that I was going to take over at 7:15, and he would talk about what had been going on the Watercress line. And he'd talk about all sorts of things. Oh, we've been sort of like greasing the axles of the van or whatever it is, the train, we're doing this to the locomotive, or we've been doing the points at Medstead and doing this in a signal box, and we've refurbished the station, because they've got a few stations along the line, you know, where people can get on and off the train. And I thought, who is listening to this? You know, this is 15 minutes that I could have. You know, who is listening to this Watercress show? Anyway, one week, I got a phone call to say, can you come in a little bit earlier and do from 7 o'clock, because the fellow, I can't remember his name, but he was a lovely fellow. He was so dedicated to this railway, and he said he's not very well, so we need you to fill in for that 15 minutes. So I filled in and started at 7 instead of 7:15, and the phones never stopped ringing all the way through my show, and it was people ringing up saying, we're waiting for the Watercress bit, what are you doing on? And it was just non-stop, and it was then that I realised that people had a real big interest in this 15-minute slot of the Watercress line, and it showed me then that if you've got something that people are interested in, they will tune in and listen. Anyway, coming back to my show, I'd have the bands play acoustically, so we had a desk, And on one side of the desk I will be, and nowadays it's all computerized, entirely different. But then you had 8-track cartridges and you would plug them in and the adverts will play. I will play a lot of my music on cassettes. We had CDs there because I once I started to get established, I would have music sent to me, and I would say after about 5 or 6 years of doing it, I was getting something in the region of 30, 40, 50 CDs a week. Now, some of them would be singles. In fact, the majority would be singles, but some of them would be albums. So I'd be getting all these albums coming through the post, and they'd all be coming to my home, and the promotional companies, the PR companies would be sending them. They'd be looking for feedback. The record companies would be sending them. And because I only had the hour and 3/4, there was no way I could play everything on there. So it came to a point where I was just curating music. And the type of things that I play are from purely independent record labels. So I wouldn't play anything from the mainstream. I would certainly never play any chart music, because my thoughts were, you can listen to that anywhere. You can turn on any radio station. You could turn on Wave Valley Radio during the day and you would hear chart music. But in the evenings, they like to have specialist shows. There will be a blues show, there'll be a country and western show. I believe there may have even been a show that was on the show tunes, you know, from the musicals. And mine was specifically for independent and unsigned music. So it was new and unsigned bands has always been the theme of my show. So that was one of the perks, as it were, that I would get all these CDs through. Now, I listened to everything that came through. Some of it may only get 30 seconds because I had so much to listen to that I would only listen to 30 seconds and think, I don't like this, so I will put it to one side. But other stuff that I did enjoy, I will play. And in those days, I was doing a job where I spent a lot of time in my car, so I could put the CDs on in the car and listen to it as I was driving. So that was quite good for me. That was one of the benefits. Another major benefit, and really is, and I feel humbled by this, is that I do get on guest lists, and I get invited to go to shows, or if there are shows that are on that I'd like to go to, then I will contact the PR managers and say, look, is it possible to get to see the show? And they would normally send me a couple of tickets, or I'd walk along and I'd be on the list and taken in. And I always feel embarrassed about that, because there were certain times I walked up, went to see Joe Strummer and Mescaleros at Brixton Academy. And normally you will walk up to the box office and say, I'm on the list. And they check your name off and say, there you go, there's your 2 tickets. So I walked up at Brixton Academy and they said, yeah, you are on the list, but you need to go around to the stage door. We're not running it from the box office. So they told me where the stage door was. So I'm walking around the side of Brixton Academy. I walk around the side and they've got all these barriers up for all the guest list people. And of course, all the other people are sort of like A-list people that are walking in there. And then you get me and my mate who'd come with me, is real big Z listeners. You know, absolutely nobody's walking down this corridor, as it were, and there was all autograph hunters there, and they've got their pens and papers, and you see their face light up as someone came towards it, and they sort of like leaning over the barriers, and they got their pen and paper ready to shove it in their face, and you could see the look of disappointment when they saw me walking down there. They just thought, who the hell is that? I've got no idea who he is, not interested whatsoever. And you could see the disappointment. They all deflated back behind the barriers, and we strolled in and went in through the stage door. And that's when we did find out we were the Z-listers, because the A-listers were sent one way to the green rooms around the back, where there was sort of like probably the drinks waiting for them and the buffet and everything. We were sent the other way, which was straight into the auditorium. So any thoughts of stardom had already been dashed by the autograph hunters, just the look of disappointment on their faces, but also that we weren't going in with the people that mattered, as it were. So yeah, I get to festivals as well. Lucky enough to get to festivals and sort of get into areas where I know I've spoken before that I do go into areas where I shouldn't be, but when I'm there as a guest, I do not mess about like that, and I just go into the areas where I have passes for. Yeah, that is a great part of doing it, and to be fair, anyone can do it. Anyone can do it, and it's so much more accessible now than it was then. In those days, there was limited spaces. There was limited stations, limited spaces. But with the advent of the internet, I mean, everyone can get on it. You could make your own station if you wanted to. You could make your own station and put it up there. And like I'll tell you about where my old shows go, or some of them, because as I've explained, I'm not very good at editing, and I don't do a lot of editing. Once I've done the show, that's it. But I did go through a spell where I would download them, edit them, and put them up on the web. And I'll tell you a bit later where you can do that. And you can even put your own radio show up there. And lots of people have. And some of these have developed into full-blown stations. They just invite other people, to put their show on, so they can have their own station. I'll go into that a little bit later, actually, because this is just something that's just occurred to me. Anyway, I've been at Wave Valley Radio. I joined them in their first year, and it was their 10th anniversary, and someone had the bright idea of, let's make a tape, all the presenters come on, they give a personal story of something that happened on Wave Valley Radio, and they would present it to the manager like as a 10th anniversary present. And I had a story. I had a band in the studio, and they were sitting on the other side of the desk, and there was sort of like it wasn't a barrier, but there was something there that sort of like was a divider between one side of the desk and the other, because I had bits of equipment there and the mixing desk and one thing and another. And that's something I'll come on to again if you're not technically minded. I bought these new boots, and I thought they were great. They were sort of like lace-up boots, but they were rubber, and the whole boots were rubber. And I thought these were great. This is going back, I suppose, to the 90s. I said to this band, "Oh look," says, "I've got a new pair of boots." They said, "Oh, let's have a look." So I lifted my leg up to put it on the desk. So I've lifted the leg up, pulled the hamstring, I've gone, "Ah!" And I said a word straight out. My face was in front of the microphone, and I said a word that should never be said on radio, especially in those days, because you had Ofcom. People could complain. They keep the shows for, I think it's 6 weeks or 6 months, and they keep those shows. So if anyone did complain, then they could go back and reference them. And I said, let's say it's the Anglo-Saxon word for fornication, and I said that straight down the microphone. So we're doing this tape for the station manager for his 10th anniversary, and I remember this story. So I told this story because, of course, there were a few people I think did contact the station over that one and say, he swore, and I had to make an apology, if I had offended anyone. But the rules are different now. If you swear then, you glossed over it. You made out it didn't happen. You just carried on. That was what you was told to do. Just ignore it, carry on. Whereas nowadays you have to apologise straight away. You apologise straight away. Say, look, you may have heard a word there that you shouldn't have done. We do apologise if it's caused any offence. But then I just ignored it and carried on, and they got a few complaints and one thing or another. But they didn't get rid of me, so it couldn't have been that bad. And I recounted this story on the tape. So the station manager, this is near Christmas time, so the station manager has thought, right, I'm going to visit my mum for Christmas. It'd be nice if I played the tapes for her. Stupidly, he hadn't listened to it. So all the others are recounting all these nice stories. Then it comes to mine, and her face when I said the word that I'd said live on air. Apparently, it was a picture, and he didn't know where to look. He had no idea this was coming. I was just listening to the story, and then all of a sudden, bang! There it is. It's his mum right between the eyes, bang! And it was. Unfortunate that he hadn't listened first, but it always is an idea to have a listen first to something that I'm saying. Although on these videos, I won't repeat a word. You know, you never know who's listening. I don't want to. If I started using language like that, or perhaps I'd have to put a YouTube thing on there, and it would limit the audience who could watch this. So I'm certainly not going to use language like that. I also at one stage thought maybe I would try and progress in my career and take it on professionally. And I went and got advice from someone, and he said to me, you don't stand a chance because of your accent. No one wants regional accents. And back then, yeah, everybody spoke in the same smashy and nicey type thing. You know, I would say it bland. You know, people were bland. They all wanted to sound middle class, and they tried to be like the BBC. And I didn't. I just was myself. I can't do anything else. I am not an actor. I just am myself. So I was told, yeah, no, they don't want regional. They will never want regional accents in radio. Of course, now, if you haven't got a regional accent, you don't stand a chance of getting on the radio. And to me, that is refreshing. I mean, you listen to the presenters nowadays. You've got people from the northeast who are presenting, like Lauren Laverne. You've got Hugh. I can almost call him Hugh Edwards. Don't talk about him. Hugh Stevens with his Welsh accent. You've got Nick Grimshaw with his northern accent. You've got regional accents all over the place, and of course you've got the great Danny Baker with his Cockney accent. So yeah, it was the worst piece of advice I ever had in radio. Worst piece of advice, and perhaps, you know, I look back and think, I'm glad I didn't do it, because if I did it, it would become a job, and I couldn't do what I wanted to do, and I just want to do my own thing. And I've been lucky that every station I've been on, apart from one, and they did allow me a little bit of freedom, but they were a military station. They were broadcasting to a garrison town, and it was really for the soldiers. Although there was no local radio station in Aldershot, so it did become something for local news as well. But that was the only time that I wasn't allowed to, because they had their format, which is fair enough. I mean, it's their radio station. They had their format. I had to stick by that, and they allowed me sort of 5-10 minutes to bring a guest in to have a little acoustic session, and that was it. And those acoustic sessions and the guests grew. They said, right, you got 10 minutes, and out with 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and it grew and grew and grew. And I thought, I'm not getting pulled up on this. No one's listening. They are not listening in to make sure that I'm doing as I'm told. So those grew for the simple reason that they didn't check up, and that was down to them. And then Wave Valley Radio grew. Well, it didn't grow. It had a sister station, Delta Radio, and someone. The station was taken over by another company, because these stations are all owned by bigger companies. Some of them aren't, but certainly the stations I was on at Wave Valley was owned by a larger group. And that group said, hang on, we've got 2 radio stations here, one in Hazelmere, one in Alton. One's called Delta, one's called Wave Valley Radio. Why are we not amalgamating the 2, and we'll have one larger broadcast area, right? Because you've got the 2 antennas working, and we'll just make it one station. So that's what they did. They amalgamated it, and it became Delta Radio, and we got a larger broadcast area. By this time, though, the internet had come along. Now, before the internet came along, I've been doing it for about 2 years, and one day a package came, and it had come from Brazil. And I opened it up, and it was a cassette tape and a letter with it, quite a long letter. And it was from a Brazilian heavy metal band. And they said, we've heard that you're playing unsigned music in Britain. Would you please play our tape? And I played it. It wasn't my cup of tea, but I thought they'd gone to all this trouble. And I did a little feature on them, as I remember, on the show. And I thought, how have they heard about what I'm doing in a broadcast area, which is probably about 25 square miles, if that, you know, yeah. And how have they heard in Brazil that I'm doing this? And I never did find out. They just said, you know, we've heard that you're doing this. And it was the old day. It come by snail mail. There's no such thing as email in those. Not for the ordinary person. There was no such thing as email. It was just the military really that used all that, you know, scientists and people like that, and to have that come through from Brazil, I thought that was great. That's how much people were playing unsigned music in those days. Nowadays, every station's got to play unsigned music. They all have got to do it. Oh, we've got this local band, we've got that local band. I'm not saying I was a groundbreaker or pathfinder, anything like that. What I'm saying is no one else was doing it. The only person that was doing it was John Peel. And John Peel was something else. He was a different level. People have said to me, oh, you're the new John Peel. No way am I the new John Peel. John Peel was one of a kind. Absolutely one of a kind. I may be doing a similar format to him, but the influence that he had, and the friends that he made. I mean, I've made some great friends through radio, absolutely great friends. But no, John Peel was doing it, and John Peel was one of a kind. He will never, ever be replaced. Unfortunately, I never got to meet him, but his show, to me, was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Anyway, when the internet did start growing, I met someone who was a web designer. Now, nowadays, anyone can be a web designer. I do my web design. I couldn't code a thing. I couldn't code a bouncing ball across in HTML across the screen. I couldn't do anything like that. But I've got a website because you've got all the editors that allow you to do it. In those days, to find a computer programmer was something. They were sort of gold dust. Anyway, I met this fella. He was into his music as well, and I suggested to him, would we be able to do a show on the internet? So he said yes. He said, I don't see why not. So I contacted the licensing authorities. It might have been the RCS, I think, someone like that, and said to them, look, I want to do this show. How much would I have to pay for a license? And they came up with a ridiculous figure. I said, look, I'm only looking to do unsigned bands. They said, don't matter if that band's PRS, that's it, PRS. They said, if that band is signed to PRS, you need a license, and if you don't have a license, we'll fine you. So I think it was something like £30 a day they were. I said £30 a day, and I'm going backwards and forwards to these people. You know, by this time when it was email, I'm going backwards and forwards, saying that's ridiculous. So what I did was I contacted dozens upon dozens of bands and said, are you PRS registered? And I found all the bands, or not all the bands, but I found bands who were not registered with the PRS. So I could play their music and I wouldn't have to worry about these stupid licenses. Had they made it a decent price and accessible, then I would have had one. But I thought, no, I'm just going to find people who are not signed up to PRS. And there are lots of people who are signed up to PRS. And I would actually say to smaller bands, work it out. You will probably earn less than you pay them for a license to go and collect your fees. So that I used to think PRS was great. You know, I thought it was a great idea, one thing, but when they came up with that, I thought, this is ridiculous. You know, you need to come into the real world. But anyway, that's another story. So we set this station up, and the opening, this fellow was a brilliant designer. I can't for the life of me think of his name now. And he worked at Surrey University, and this station was hidden on their servers. It was going out from Surrey University, and for all I know, it still might be somewhere in the depths of a Surrey University server. And he put this show out, and it was brilliantly staged. That we used the idea of an entry phone, and little did I know that entry phone is a brand name, right? So it's like Tannoy. Tannoy is not a loudspeaker. Tannoy is a brand name. You can't use it. So we used this entry phone, and then I thought, well, I'm not putting my home address on this, so I put the station address. I walk in one week, station manager says, I want to work with you in the office. So I go in the office, he says, what have you been up to? He said, we've had a letter from Entry Phone saying you're using their name without permission. So I said, oh, right, well, this is a little thing, and I had to explain that I'd sort of like put this thing on the web. So he said, well, look, there's the letter from them. So I let it, and it was actually from the chairman of, I think it was Entry Phone, from the chairman of Entry Phone, and he said, will you contact us? So they said, we don't want to go down a legal route, just contact us. So I wrote to them and I said, look, I'm really sorry, I had no idea what we were doing. I got a lovely letter back from the chairman, and he said to me, he said, I've listened to the show, I absolutely love it. He said, you can keep using it, keep using the Entry Phone, and because we used it, and like each buzzer was for different parts of the website, and he said, you can keep using it, all you got to do is put kind permission of Entry Phone, and that was what we did. We just put that at the bottom. And he was a lovely fellow. I never met him, but you know, in the letters, he was a lovely fellow, and he said, yeah, you can keep using it. And that's what we did. We just put kind permission of Entry Phone, and we carried on doing that. So as I say, that might still be up there. Sadly, I don't think that I ever kept. See, I don't keep memorabilia or anything like that. And I thought, right, let's start putting some shows on the web. When I went to look, I haven't got any. I've not downloaded them, you know. So that's a bit of a shame that that's all been lost now. Some people have recorded them over the years and sent me a copy of the tape, but on the whole, I've never sort of like done this type of thing. Now, coming back to the mixing desk, I was saying, if you wanted to do your own radio station, it is more easy nowadays than ever. You could actually do it on your phone, but I wouldn't suggest that. But if you had access to a computer, then you can do it, and you would just record your voice. You could say whatever you want. Right? You could say whatever you want, as long as you're not slandering someone. You start slandering someone, you're going to get sued. But if you want to play Tibetan flute music, I in fact have been playing over the past few years a Mongolian rock band. I mean, from outer Mongolia, how brilliant is that? I've been getting music from outer Mongolia, and they are great. They're absolutely great. But I must admit, a lot of their stuff is covers, but. You know, I just like playing original music. I'm not keen on playing covers. And every show I do is original music, apart from around about the 8th of January, which is David Bowie's birthday, when I will do a show that is purely David Bowie music. And it will be, you know, a tribute to David Bowie. But apart from that, it's all unsigned music. So if you wanted to make it, you just record your voice, then slot in your MP3s. It couldn't be easier. Now, to get around having a license, there is it's like SoundCloud, but it's called Mixcloud, and it's a service where you can put up your own radio shows. You can do whatever you want. You could just play the tracks and put them up. And the beauty of Mixcloud is they pay the license fee. They will pay it. They will pay the royalties to the artists. SoundCloud won't. It's got to be your own original stuff. So Mixcloud, I would suggest if you want to do it, have a look at Mixcloud as a starting point. If you didn't want to go that way, make your own show. Find internet stations that are looking for new talent. That's all you need to do is to find internet stations, send it to them, or go down the route which I've gone down over all these years, which is broadcast radio that then goes out on the internet. So I'm actually going out live on the internet. So you can listen on your PC. You can listen on your. I'm not going to say their names, but you know the little things that you say, play this and play that. Otherwise, mine's going to go sitting over there in the corner. So you just say play Radio Woking, and it will play. So it is easy. It is easy to do it. That gives you a clue now that I'm not at Radio Wave Valley Radio anymore. Well, Radio Valley Radio, as I say, became Delta Radio. So we increased our audience share, and that was great. Now, the thing with licenses is that they only last for so long, radio licenses, and someone, I'm not going to say who, although she's no longer with us, come up with a bright idea. Why don't we just give it to the person who offers the most money? Let's not worry about content, let's not worry about quality, let's just give it to the companies that offer the most money for the license. So that's how the system went. And of course, the license for Delta just became inaccessible for the companies. You know, there was only limited amount of money they could make from the station, and as I understood it, it really was a labour of love for the people who owned it, because they didn't make money and they perhaps lost money, and it was just to do something for the community, which I take my hat off. You know, that they were prepared to pay money to do it. So Delta lost their licence. That was it. They were taken over by a larger company who said, we don't want volunteers. That's another thing. I don't get paid. I would say virtually everyone on community radio does not get paid, and you'll be surprised on local radio as well that people don't get paid for it. We're known as volunteers, so we're volunteers, broadcasters, volunteer presenters, and we just do it for the love of it. We just do it because we enjoy it. Maybe because I like the sound of my own voice, but it gives me the opportunity to play music that I like, and if other people like it, that's a massive bonus. And I do get people asking me, you know, bump into me and say, you played a tune the other day, you know, what was it? So I'd like to, you know, get a copy of it, you know, because nowadays it's so easy, isn't it? You just go on the web and download the MP3. But if you've not made a note of who it is, you've got no chance. So, but I couldn't even tell you what I had for breakfast this morning. And I have the same thing every day, literally every day. So it's no good if you bump into me in the street, or you bump into me in the pub or at a gig and say to me, oh, what was that third song you played on the show the other night? You got no chance of me remembering. But I do keep my playlist so I can refer back. And one day I'm going to start putting more shows on Mixcloud. I put one together the other day, actually, did a little bit of editing and put it up there on Mixcloud. So I do have a show out there, a number of shows, old shows that I've done. I think it's Keith Woodhouse, just straight Keith Woodhouse on Mixcloud. So if you just search that, hopefully you should be able to find it. I'll put a link down below. Yeah, like that's going to happen. I've forgotten that by the time I come to the end of this. Anyway, if you're in a broadcast studio, you've got the mixing desk. I was once told by the station manager, don't touch any of that. You know, all those little knobs that you've got everywhere, like on those mixing desks, don't touch it. Like, other people was allowed to touch it, me, no chance. Do not touch any of that. Right, you just stay there. You go up for play, down for stop, and that is it. So all I would touch was the faders, right? and if a band was playing too loud, I would just pull the fader down. But nowadays, I could twiddle around with the knobs because I've not been told not to touch them anymore. But I left Delta, and I've been doing it quite a few years then. And I thought, did I want to carry on in it? And after a few weeks, I was really missing it. So I got in contact with the local military station, and luckily I knew it was a good old mate of mine who had done a previous show to me when I moved nights. He did a sports show on that 15-minute slot where the Watercress line would have been. He did local sports, and Richard, very lovely fella, he was station manager down there. And I rang him and said, look, I'm looking for a slot. He said, no need to send in a tape or anything, you've got your slot, because he knew my work. So I started on there. He said, only thing, you're going to be playlisted. You're going to have to play what a computer says. It was all on the computer. You can do your own fill, you can say what you want, but you've got to play that. And I was playing music that I didn't like, but I was pleased at the opportunity to stay on there. So I did that, and I did it for a few years. And then the inevitable happened, as it does with radio stations I'm on. They lost their licence. That's nothing to do with me. Once again, the government decided that, look, we've got 2 military stations, we only want one. And BFBS, British Forces Broadcasting Service, they won that licence. So there's just now the one thing. To be fair to them, they never met me. They did say, there's a show there for you. So I said, right, can I do this? They said, no. So I said, okay, fair enough. I don't want to do it. It's not of interest. But to be fair to them, they did offer me the show, and they did say, it's yours if you want it. But I didn't. So we didn't go down that route. And I had a mate who had an internet station broadcasting out of a school in Woking. So he'd been saying to me for quite a long time, come over there. So I thought, well, look, most of my listeners are on the internet, because I was getting messages from all around the world. And I thought, well, I don't need to be on broadcast radio. I can just do it on the web. So I went over there, went out live on the web. And we were in this school, and it was like a tiny little room that the school had given. And to be fair, I mean, the school were very, very generous. And it was called Yay Radio. And it's literally egg box cartons on the wall for soundproofing. They were egg box cartons on the wall. And we had a little computer there, and we'd be broadcasting to this computer. But I would still get people in, and they'd be cramped in, playing their acoustic guitars, and we'd do a little session. Anyway, Justin said to me, because he said, oh, come up. And that was when I found out there were 2 DJs, and I was one of them. So it was sort of like a very limited service, but someone somewhere was paying for the license. I don't know who it was, and to this day I still don't know. And Justin said to me one day, he said, station manager, he said to me, we're getting funding, and they're putting in a new recording studio downstairs. And I've asked the PTA and the school have raised money. They got a grant, and a lot of money went into this proper recording studio in the school. And he asked if they could put the radio station down there. And we got a studio, a lovely little studio we've got down there. Brand new equipment, computers, we had the lot. Beautiful mixing desk. And so I'm getting my bands coming in. Now we've got all this new equipment. They were saying, we've been on various radio stations, nowhere near the standard of this equipment. And it all belonged to the school. And Winston Churchill School was so good. So I said, look, let's make it a community radio station. Let's get in. Let's get all these slots filled, right, with presenters. So that was what we did. I got on the phone to people who I know saying, look, we're setting up a new station. Do you want to come in and have a show? And we had the opening night. We had the mayor of Woking. We had all dignitaries down there. We had representatives from the school. We had representatives of the students from the school. We had Rick Buckler from the Jam come down. We had all sorts in there. And they were all in a hall. And Yay Radio was finishing. Adam, I think it was, he was finishing Yay Radio. And then at 6 o'clock, we shifted to Radio Woking, and then I came on, and that was the birth of Radio Woking. I think it was about 11 years ago now. As I say, I don't keep a record of these things, but I think it was about 11 years ago, and we started broadcasting, and I introduced each presenter, you know, that came in, and we were playing songs and then talking to the presenters about what type of show they were going to do, because it was still my idea that during the day it would be chart show and classic pop songs, and then in the evening it would go to specialist shows, and we had loads of specialist shows. In fact, we've had shows now that have won awards. It's good for the station that this has happened. But going back to my mate Richard over at BFBS, he rang me up one day and said, do you think Radio Woking will be interested in going on DAB radio? And I said, yes, we will. I said, that's it. So he said, well, don't you need to go and ask someone? I said, no, I'll phone them up and tell them, and they will jump at it, which Justin, being the station manager, which he did, who would say no to going out on DAB radio? So we eventually got to broadcast. So we within a year, we had gone from being an internet station to a station that you could listen to on DAB radio. And BFBS, all credit to them. They pay for everything. They maintain the mast. They do the lot, and once again it was my old mate Richard Wyeth who facilitated that for us. He's been very good in my career, hasn't he, in radio? But yeah, so Radio Woking now, we're well established. We can't broadcast during the day because the school's open, so they can't have people walking in and out while the school's open. But I think we broadcast in the mornings. We have the breakfast show from 7 till 9. Then we go to recorded music that is just put out by the computer. Then at 4 o'clock, I believe there may be a student show. There used to be a student show at 3 o'clock. So the students of the Winston Churchill School used to do a show at 3 o'clock. Then at 4 o'clock, we have a drive time show till 6. And then at 6, there's a 6 to 8 slot, and then an 8 till 10. And we have to go off air at 10 because it all gets locked up. And it goes to automation till the morning. But as I say, I'm not technically minded at all, not at all. And going back to Waverley Road, this is how technically minded I am. I was broadcasting live. I had a band sitting the other side of the desk, and I was just getting a CD out, and it flipped out, and it dropped, and I'm like this, you know, trying to catch the thing, and sort of like knees here, trying to knee it back up into my hands, and all of a sudden the station's gone off air, bang, it's gone, and total silence. And I'm thinking, where is it? You know, all the lights have gone out on the desk, everywhere. And I thought, well, go and have a power cut because the lights are still on. I have no idea what's going on. Absolutely no idea. So I said, I don't know what's happening. I don't know what to do. And I didn't have a mobile phone in those days. And I'm completely lost. And then all of a sudden, someone had been working late in the office, luckily, down the corridor. They've come charging in. Where's it gone? I said, I don't know, I'm just doing this. Sort of like showing me juggling with a cassette case. And he said, oh, right. And he dives under the desk, boom, it all comes on again. So I said, well, what's happened there? And now, I'm not technically minded, right? Not at all. But even I know it's a stupid thing to put the whole station on a rocker switch under the desk where no one could see it. And the whole station was on and off on this rocker switch that was under the desk. I mean, whatever Bright Spark thought of that, I have no idea. So I was always careful then, you know, when you cross your legs, you know, you just don't think. You bang the table and you could easily just put the station off. But once you knew it was there, then that was it. But anyway, coming back to Radio Woking, we had this brand new recording studio, and then after some months, they actually managed to patch it through to the studio. So I was able, or I still am able, to have full live bands play in session. So they will be in the recording studio, and I now work with a fellow who has become a great mate of mine, Dan Montague, and he's a tremendous sound engineer, and he engineers for me. He comes in, volunteers as well. He comes in, he engineers, he sets them all up, like mics it all up as if it is a proper recording session, and they will play live, and he will mix it, and it will go out like, you know, live. So they play a wrong note, they go wrong. That's it. There's no going back, and that's what I love about it. I don't like when they say, "Oh, we've got this band in session." Yeah, they're in session. You recorded them last week, and they probably have 5 takes at that song. To me, that's not a live session. That is a recording session. That is not a live session. As far as I'm concerned, live session is go out live, and if it goes wrong, it goes wrong. I listen to Robert Elms a lot. I think Robert Elms is a fantastic presenter, absolutely brilliant. And I'll listen to him on a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday when he's on. Every time I get the chance, I will listen. And he has bands play live. He has artists play live in the studio, but they are playing live. So if they go wrong, they go wrong. But I listen to other shows and they say, "Oh, right, here's a band who we've got live," and you know full well they're not live. They're not there. Otherwise, they'd be having a to and fro with them. They're not there. They are recorded, and it's not a live session. But anyway, that's my little bee in my bonnet. Don't say it's live when it's not. This is a band that recorded a session for us. A lot of, to be fair, some people do say that they recorded a session for us, and this is it. But other people say, "Oh, here's a live session." No, it's not a live session. Anyway, that's it. So I would say, if you want to, if you had the chance to do your own station, what would it be? What would you specialise in? Would you want to do pop music? I mean, would you want to pick an era, say the 80s, 90s, noughties, and play songs from that? Would you want to do blues? You got a love for the blues, and you'd want to play blues. You'd be playing stuff from the 1920s, 30s, up to today with Eric Clapton and people like that. There's loads. The opportunities are limitless, absolutely limitless. I play new and unsigned music, and people say to me, "Oh, you only play punk." I say, "Do you ever listen to my show?" I said, "That's absolute rubbish. I will play whatever genre that I enjoy. And if I like the song, I'll play it. And what I hope is that other people will like the song, and they will get to hear that band." I've had people come up to me and say, "Oh, I loved it when you played so-and-so, and I've been to see them live a few times now," which is great. They said, "You know, I bought their CDs and I absolutely love the band." To me, that makes me feel so good inside that that band's had that exposure that they may not have had. And it's great. But I do put my stuff on Mixcloud. By the way, if you are enjoying this, if you wouldn't mind giving a little thumbs up, or if you want to hear more, hit the subscribe button. That would be absolutely brilliant. That would be fantastic. Because it all helps with the algorithm and one thing and another. But that'd be great if you would. That'd be lovely. Anyway, as I say, if you want to do it, I'll put the link to Mixcloud so as you can go on. And as far as I know, it's free. I'm sure I'm not paying them any money. I'm absolutely sure, and I may upgrade it because and then pay something towards it because you get extra perks. But I'm pretty sure that I'm not paying them any money, so it is free. I mean, it's not that I don't want to; it's just that I've signed up for it, and you can tell what I'm like. I just do it and then forget about it. So, and I don't really know what I'm doing. So I don't know what type of contract I've got with them. But yeah, if I'm not doing the upgrade, I certainly will look at doing that because perhaps I might get a few more people listening in on that on my old shows. So that's Mixcloud. They will pay for it. You can't do it on SoundCloud. You've got to only put up your own music. I can't play anything on YouTube because I've not got the permissions to do it. So I won't be attempting to do anything like that because I don't want to upset the powers that be. Also, people put a lot of time and effort into making this music. It's not a case of, you hear of these places, they say, oh, come and play for us, we'll give you exposure. Yeah, right. I can get exposure anywhere and be paid for it. I think that's a cheek. People spend a lot of time, they write the music, they then hone their skills, they learn their instruments. If they're a band, they have to rehearse. Well, even if you're a solo artist, you've got to rehearse. The amount of hours that go into that, and not to even give them the petrol money for going, it's just not on. And we don't pay anyone on the radio, and I don't know if any radio stations do, but we certainly don't because we've got no money. We do not earn any money. That is the bottom line. We've got no money coming in. Everything is done for the love of it, and the school are so good to us, giving us that equipment. But I'm on every Monday evening, 6 to 8 on Radio Woking. So just tell your machine or go online, or if you're in the Woking area, you can get it on DAB, or if you're in the Rushmore area, you can get it on DAB as well. So have a listen and let me know what you think, which might be amusing, to be honest. But I love it. I really enjoy it. I am so humbled by the benefits I get from it. That I do get music sent to me. I've literally got 2,500 emails that I haven't opened yet, and every one of those emails will have at least one song in it. And I'm just overwhelmed. I just can't get the time now to listen to them all, and it is a shame because there's a lot of nuggets that I know I'm missing. I know that I'm not getting to hear, and if only there was more days in the week, as the Beatles said. Then I might be able to do it, but at the moment, unfortunately, I can't, and I spend my time rambling away on YouTube. Anyway, thank you very much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you do have any questions, especially if you do feel that you'd like to get a radio station or a radio show going, how you could get into broadcast radio, how you could get into internet radio, or even setting up your own station, I'll be happy to help wherever I could. Just ask me a question in the comments, and I'll help in any way I can. I've got no courses to sell. I've got absolutely nothing to sell. So and anything that I tell you is from my experience and what I know, and hopefully it'll help. Anyway, once again, thank you very much for listening. Hope you've enjoyed it, and maybe see you again.